The Jim and Terry Show, coming to you minus one Jim. So it's the Terry Show today. You can tune out, tune to something else, or browse our other episodes if you want to hear Jim's dulcet tones. He'll be back this week after a week of not being well. Where are we going today? Well, how about this? There is a strange amalgamation going on where people I thought would be rational and civil are becoming irrational and uncivil. What am I talking about? The pro-Palestinian rallies, mostly in the United States, but they could be elsewhere. London, England has a source of big ones. Toronto and Montreal both had some. And so I will back up and put the context at this. October 7th. I'm going to put it there along with the days of infamy. Use that label to say it was a surprise attack. Just like Pearl Harbor, this one caught Israel by surprise. It was a terrorist attack, not a state-armed attack, a terrorist attack. That's the context for everything I'm going to talk about. It is not a question of equivocating, of finding yeah buts, or of false equivalencies. It's a question of terrorists attacked intentionally in a most despicable, abhorrent, inhuman, barbaric way. And what I saw on October 7th in Toronto and Montreal, among other places that I saw YouTube videos of, is a strange truck car with, instead of hockey sticks and F. Trudeau, were pro-Palestinian flags. And that kind of got me by surprise. What are you celebrating? Well, Allahu Akbar. What does that mean? Praise be to God. For what, I ask? For Hamas's terrorist attack? For the maiming, mutilation, beheading, torturing, raping, pillaging of Israeli settlements? What exactly is God to be praised for as people are butchered? And I'm wondering where people's sensibilities were left at the door. Why were you suddenly? And who are these people? Well, a lot of these things, especially in Montreal, were a university-based protest, were a strange amalgamation of left-leaning, progressive, and I'm loath to use the word, but social justice warriors kind of people, uplifting the downtrodden. I like that, but this one seems misaligned, where there is no understanding. It's just, oh, we're having a protest. Come and join us. Of course you would vote for the downtrodden and uplift those who have been oppressed. And yeah, there's a genocide going on in Gaza. Surely you would want to support that. And somehow the rational mind gets left behind in that whole let's wave our flags. In this case, does it really matter whether it's an F. Trudeau or it's a Palestinian flag, whether it's Hamas or the KKK or Russia? Doesn't matter what flag is being waved. If it's waved in anger, if it's waved with rage, if it's raised with selective bits of information and bias, then perhaps you're a little quick to the draw. Perhaps we are. And I'm open to reflecting on that. But I'm going to call a spade in this case and say that there is a great misguided sense in this strange amalgam of what I would say are rational Canadians, those who normally would help your neighbor, open the door for somebody, carry some packages for the elderly, shovel the snow for somebody. What happened to all of that cultural sensitivity and sensibility in these protests that have erupted all over the place since October 7th? Remember, October 7th is a day of infamy. There's no getting around it. If you don't acknowledge it, there's a problem. Putin does not acknowledge war crimes committed in Bucha, the mass graves. He does not acknowledge the war crimes that Russia is committing in Ukraine. That's a problem. Hamas is not acknowledging October 7th as a war crime at all. Instead, it's the Israeli retaliation that followed that is being couched in the frame and given the lens of victimization. It's blame the Jews, blame Israel for what? For oppressing the Palestinians. Really? So let's look at the context a little bit. Terrorism, surprise attack, abominations, barbarism, versus we're going to attack the perpetrators. Hamas, terrorist organization. If you really wanted to start the war, then come and fight the war. But they don't. They hide. They put weapons beside schools. They have access points in children's bedrooms. They have tunnels instead of bomb shelters. They have missile launchers in mosques. And we're shouting Allahu Akbar? Really? How about from the river to the sea? Really? River to the sea is not some kind of social justice, free the oppressed. It's eradicate the Jews from Israel. And I don't think there's any way of getting around that. You may deal with Palestinian oppression and talk about the political strife and how to move towards a two-state resolution of the conflicts in the Middle East. That's legitimate. Blowing stuff up is not. I'm sorry. And although it does Israel no good in terms of public opinion on the global stage to be blowing stuff up, it did no good for Palestinians, the poor, the marginalized in Gaza, to have Hamas in Gaza continue to this day, nearly 4 weeks later, rockets from Gaza and from supporters outside of Gaza into Israel. What are you doing? If you want to get peace, you don't launch rockets. If you want to have peace, you lay down your weapons. If you want to have peace, you get out of the war zone. If you want to have peace, you release hostages. Better yet, don't take them in the first place. What's your intent if you take hostages? So there's something really amiss. And to align well-meaning, left-leaning social justice warriors to that end is a problem. It's a problem when what I would call Hamas propaganda machine successfully navigated world opinion against Israel. The anti-Israel, anti-Semitic hate that has been going on for weeks now is more than troubling for me as a Canadian. The university-based protests are especially troubling, especially to see all the violence against Jewish students in Canada. What? Yeah, and some of the stuff appalls me because it's genuinely misguided, I think. But when you are gay, lesbian, queer, LGBTQ2SIA+, and you're marching with pro-Palestinian who are shouting Allahu Akbar from the river to the sea, something's wrong. There's been a cog in the logic wheel that has slipped, in my opinion. Because, of course, they realize, or maybe they don't, that in Muslim-controlled, theologically indoctrinated territories in the Arab world, queers would not be allowed to exist. Okay? Understand that. When you rally with the pro-Palestinians, you are rallying with an Islamic State or aspirational Islamic State. And your very group that you are joining arms with would not be allowed to exist. How ironic is that? And I just posted a blog on my website. You can look at it on terrywigmore.com. How did we get here? The abandonment of civil discourse and the pursuit of self-interest. And although the focus in that blog is not particularly Hamas, Palestine, pro-Gaza, liberate, that kind of stuff, but it is saying that when we have stopped listening to the other, whoever the other is, when we have stopped interacting in meaningful ways, when our positions do not change despite our noses in front of our face, when facts do not matter in the discourse, when hatred is taught and repeated intergenerationally, we in Canada have a problem. Imported terrorism. It's not just that we have a domestic right-wing leaning authoritarian problem in Canada, which I would argue we do. I would say that Canada has become not the melting pot we hoped, where there is civil discourse, but a melting pot where things are not necessarily melting into a Canadian mosaic where all the threads are sewn neatly together and we're respecting one another in this great Canadian mosaic. Something is not stitched together quite well, and that is the sense of victimization imported into Canada that now joins with well-intended Canadians. But are we doing the right thing when we support a lopsided, one-sided, biased view of what's going on? Is Ukraine Nazis? I would say no. Is Russia more Nazi-like? Yes. Is Hamas the new equivalent of Nazis, or is it Israel? If you read the pro-Palestinian propaganda, you would say that it's Israel who are the Nazis. And yet, the behavior and the terrorism that the Nazis wreaked upon Europe is really represented by Hamas. And somehow, Palestinians are the victims of both sides. Palestinians who don't want Hamas to represent them. Palestinians who are being victimized because Hamas continues to terrorize Israel, and Israel continues to bomb what they believe are the legitimate terrorist sites, although they are in the midst of civilian, public accessible areas. That's a problem. Palestinians are being victimized by both sides. It's not rah rah Palestine, liberate Palestine. It's justice. And justice is hard to find when both sides are shooting. Jim and Terry Show signing off for now. Bye-bye.